Hi, everyone. It's Tiffany Bryant Jackson, the Education Manager at Three Bone Theater. Welcome back to our YouTube. We are still talking our next show, Electricidad, which opens August 15th. And today we have one of our actors who's very new to us at Three Bone. So, hi, Luis. Uh,
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and then what brought you onto the project.
I'm originally from Woodland, California, and moved to New York when I was 18. Went to acting school, lived in and worked professionally as an actor there for about 10 years. Been in the South, the Charlotte area for about 15 years, working in theater as much as I can, and fairly recent to camera work. Did an independent film that premiered this year, and been acting for gosh, 20 whatever years. And on one of the shoots, actually, on a couple different shoots and projects, I became familiar with Banu, who's an actress and has been in a couple productions for Three Bone. And as we, when you have time to sit, in between takes, we just sat and talked theater and love of acting. And then she just asked me, "Hey, have you heard of, since you know theater and you love theater, have you heard of Three Bone Theater?" I'm like, I have not." And so she told me about her experience with Mojada and what a wonderful place it is. And for her, it kind of felt like coming home. And it's just very warm and welcoming. And she said, "Oh, and by the way, they're going to be doing their next production, Electricidad. I'll let you know when auditions come up." And sure enough, about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, she came and said, "Hey, they're doing auditions now. Go ahead and sign up." So I auditioned and I've been fortunate enough to be cast and yeah, been having an amazing time. That.
Yes, we met Bono in our first. This is a trilogy for those of you who may not have caught Mojada. This is a part of a trilogy. We'll have three shows that we will produce, one each year. We're in year two with Electricidad. And I'm so excited you found your way here. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is because after the first read through, you gave us a little bit of your history growing up in California and how
Mhm.
you grew up aligned to the culture we kind of talk about in the show
Yeah.
and how you understood you were friends with people who had I would say some people had no choice but to walk in certain paths
Mhm.
and get through it. And so I thought that was very interesting and I wanted to learn more about that. Tell us a little bit about like that timeline of your youth.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm from California, but I'm from Woodland, which is Northern California. So it's about 10, 15 minutes away from Sacramento. I was born in 81, so being a child of the 80s and 90s, I'm a my family is actually from New Mexico, from Alamogordo. It's a Spanish-speaking community in the United States. When they moved to California, the Chicano movement had already been going on, and so when I was born, my mother wanted to make sure that I learned English first and not Spanish because she remembered when she had to learn English as a second language, she was teased a lot. And so I grew up speaking a lot of Spanglish at home with my grandmother, my mother. And when I enrolled in school, she enrolled me in what was called a Spanish immersion program. So all of our classes were in Spanish, with a little bit of English mixed in, and it really spoke to the Mexican American and Chicano community and second generation kids, so that we all had the same education. And within that, Beamer Elementary was the school I went to. They had an amazing opportunity to have teachers who were Chicano from Sacramento, from California, come in and teach us and kind of because they grew up in the 60s and 70s, really bring that history to us. So it was really right around when I was about fourth grade. So I think I was like 10, 11 years old. This was the late 80s, early 90s. Gangs and the life just kind of wasn't on our radar. It's just, being Hispanic was a way of life. And our teacher, I remember, was started talking about a serious subject, which is, you're of age where you can be recruited, or you may have some family members, and that, of course, being a child, all of us were like, we don't understand what you're saying, but okay. But he was very serious, and he was saying that in his experience with his family and friends, we were of the age where typically, people of that community are going to start looking to recruit because it really is, they approach it with a sense of building a community, building a
Hmm.
family. And so when you come in at that angle, especially with children who don't know any better, it's like, oh, it's my cousin, it's my abuela, it's my friend, and so there is no sense of danger or anything that's wrong with it.
Hmm.
Um, and that's kind of like how, I don't want to really say, I'm not sure if grooming is the right word, but you kind of grow up with that
It's
mentality
kind
that
of
everything.
ingrained in you a little bit.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so when you grow up and get older, yes, there are elements that initiation becomes a thing, and then other activities, which can be, not necessarily lawful, come into play. And but by that point, you're already invested. You're in. You already have your familia, and you don't want to go against them, right? Um,
Yes.
and so with that, one of my teacher's friends, he was studying in Sacramento State. He came in and he worked with us, in the classroom. And for about a year, we got a chance to work with him, and he was amazing. And then one day, and this is what I mentioned in that first rehearsal, is we learned the darker side of what that meant to be, in that world. Um, my teacher, Senor Sepulveda, mentioned that his body was found in the Sacramento River. We try to understand what that meant because, at that age, I don't think you can really comprehend what death really is or what it means. But he treated us like adults and was very serious and just didn't play down anything. He said, well, he was found because he refused initiation. And unfortunately, once you know who's in that gang, once you know who is there, you're going to recognize their face. And so, for their own protection, for their own familia, they will do away with that, quote unquote threats. And unfortunately, he was caught in that crosshair. Um, and when he was telling us about this, some of my classmates, same age, 10, 11 years old, already said, "Oh yeah, some people in my neighborhood already came to me and they've been trying to get me in there." So it was one of those moments where we kind of grew up a little bit more because, like, oh, this is a very real thing happening. Um, yeah, so that's pretty much it. So when reading the play first time, I was like, oh, it's set in California, Los Angeles. Certain words, vato, ese. I grew up hearing those words. Familia is a huge thing. Pride, doing things, because we've always done things that way. It's
Hmm.
very much ingrained in our culture and in our history. And so when I read the script, I'm like, I know very well who these characters are, where it takes place. I know this world. Beautiful, yes, but there are elements where it can be scary. But I love the fact that it's not. Yes, it is Greek tragedy. There's a lot of high drama, but I don't think it's really ever viewed so much as a negative. It's always about embracing culture and
No.
trying to how do you manage and honor the history of the elders, and then try to find your own path and maybe not fall into the same traps.
I think Luis Alfaro did an excellent job in writing this piece. He did not write it to say bad, 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 culture, gang culture bad. He wrote it of
Right.
this is the system these characters operate in. This is the world they exist in. And here are choices they have to make within that system. And so we get just a look at a family going through a tragedy, but that family lives inside of this system. So what does that look like? There is betrayal, there is all of these things happening, which can happen to many people. If you hark back to the OG of the Greek tragedy, right? It's a family system,
Yep.
still and steeped in a system. It all kind of ties together. And I
Yep.
do, it's really, I'm not gonna say nice to hear, but it's interesting to hear that, this wasn't foreign to you. Had you read the play before the audition, or did you learn of the kind of alignment between what you knew as history and then what's in this play afterwards?
Yeah, so when Banu mentioned auditions, I immediately Googled it because I just kind of want to get a brief synopsis of it and just to kind of see, because I am familiar with the Greek tragedy of Electra. And so I just kind of want to see how it was adapted. And when I realized the themes and where it was set, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. But I couldn't get a copy to read. And so all I had was the sides, which was really, I think I consider the first scene where my character Nino and Orestes are boxing and fighting. He's
Mm-hmm.
training them, and it's a funny moment. It's a funny scene. But I'm like, okay, I understand that relationship. But once I was able to read the script, I'm like, oh, there's so many layers, even with the musical cues or even the titles of the scenes. It's so deeply rooted in California Chicano history. Like I mentioned, one of the scenes is "You're Still a Young Man." It's that's a song from Tower Power, which is a band from Oakland, California. It's a band that I grew up listening to. My parents grew up listening to. It's very much like everything is steeped, even El Tapayac, which is a restaurant that my character mentions. It's a restaurant in Los Angeles, and so there's so many layers to that, and it's like reading it and being able to experience it is such a wonderful gift of like, oh, that is so truly California, and he like Luis Alfaro did not miss a single beat, and it's just, I'm just in awe of the work that he created.
Agree. Now, I would love to hear a personal perspective. What does it feel like to walk into this production as an actor and get a chance to be in the room with people who share culture, with learning down to music cues and how everything is spotlighted, seeing some representation that's not always on stage? How does it feel to really be a part of that?
It, it just means so much because I don't being Mexican American, Hispanic from California, I don't have the stereotypical Mexican look. And so to find a representation when I was a child, for me, it was really like looking at Louis, the character Luis on Sesame Street or John Leguizamo. They're few and far in between. And to find someone who's not a bad guy, is even, more rare. But to find someone who's a fully developed character is amazing. This is actually my first production where I've been the whole cast is Hispanic or Latinx. The director, like every aspect of it, even the sound cues and everything. I have auditioned a few times in New York for other productions, but not cast because it's Puerto Rican, Dominican, Cuban is very different from that, and our dialect is also
Right.
different. So, from a casting choice, I understand why, but this is the first time I've ever had an opportunity where everyone is, different backgrounds, and I love it though because I believe there's three of us who are Mexican American. I think there's a couple. I mean, Glennis, I believe, is Peruvian.
Hmm.
There's Venezuelans. I believe there's a Cuban in there. So we're just a big mix of different Hispanic heritage, and it's just so cool because it really is like, oh, I can speak Spanglish or I can speak English, and it's hearing that. So it reminds me of just really just like coming home, and
I
just
love
hanging
that.
out. Yeah.
I love it. I do want to let everyone know if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I don't have my tickets yet. One, shame on you because it's our third YouTube video. And by now, I've told you repeatedly to go ahead and get your tickets. But two, if you want to learn more of his story, he is going to be in our discussion guide. So, for those of you who are new to this, every show has a discussion guide that goes along because I want you to go past the theater with this story. I want it to live with you a little longer. So, in every discussion guide, there are questions for you to ask yourself, ask your friends, go to brunch, talk about it. There's also suggestions of things to read, movies to watch, and there's always an essay. And so, you have been so kind to write our essay for us. So, thank you for that.
Thank you for the
And
opportunity.
you're welcome. Again, a reminder, show opens August 15th, runs through the 31st. So you have 3 weekends to catch it. No excuses. And when you don't listen to me and you show up and we're sold out, you get really sad. So let's avoid all of that and just plan on coming. And I'm going to leave with my question I ask everyone at the end of every video. What is one thing you want the audience to take home with them from the play?
I guess just the entire experience, just everything from the set, the sound, the costumes, the tattoos, the art, everything in it. It's so rich in Chicano culture. And the amazing work that everyone is doing on stage. Like it's difficult not to be on stage and just want to sit back and watch because it's amazing. So just really come to the theater, really enjoy it. And then if you like it, tell some people, come back. There's gonna be a lot of layers. So I think this show is one you do want, if you're able to, come and watch it a couple times because you'll get a couple different perspectives and some things will start making sense. Um,
I
yeah,
agree wholeheartedly. Thank you so much for taking some time out to
yeah,
enjoy
thank you.
and chat with us today. I truly appreciate it. I'll see you on stage this upcoming weekend,
Yeah,
so break a leg.
thank you very much.
All right, everyone else, I'll see you on the next video. Make sure you have your tickets. There are no excuses.